now.
Okay, I won't say any more spoilers for
No
Star
more
Wars.
Star Wars spoilers for now.
That moment when Jar Jar showed up.
Oh yeah.
I never knew that he got lightsaber training.
What do you think he was doing between all those movies?
Eating fish.
What is he doing at the end of episode 3?
He's like a senator. At the end of episode 3. I don't remember, but there is a thing where he gets his character arc. It might be in a book or a comic book where his character gets like resolved finally. And I don't think he dies, but
okay.
I think he's a senator because like the Empire has like a fake Senate.
Okay.
That doesn't matter. Kind of like our government.
Yeah, shit.
He's like I think still a senator into the Empire. So maybe it's in like Rebels or something that he gets.
I see.
He shows up again.
There is one important piece of news.
What's that?
Final Fantasy 14 dev explains why it nerfed 2B's butt outfit.
Oh yeah.
I like it.
I know 2B's butt created some controversy.
They nerfed the booty.
Whoa! When you move fast, the background.
Oh, sometimes when you move slow, the background it still fucks up.
I mean, I don't have a green screen, so I can't blame it.
Yeah, same. Like, it kept trying to, I want to say chroma out, but like remove my chair, but it wouldn't decide when. So it was just like half the chair. And
yeah.
All right.
All right.
Are we ready?
Should we probably do the clap?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Dude.
Time dot biz.
Dang,
All right, let's go 35.
Wow, so soon.
There we go. My first one was a little quiet, but the second one, that was loud.
Mine has some good chunky waveforms.
All right.
Chonk.
I need to get any other chonks out before we start.
The dog already went out. So.
Yeah, no, she's laying down now.
All right.
At the edge of her bed, which is weird, but whatever.
Okay.
She pooped fast because it's raining and cold outside. So she did not want to be outside.
So that always makes me poop slower. Tense up.
Squatting in the rain.
Yep, that's the only way. All natural, baby. It's really hard when I didn't have a backyard. Okay. Well then. Hello and welcome to this episode 101 of Gaming Fyx on December 21st, 2019. Happy holidays to you all, whatever you celebrate. Christmas is coming up. That's what I celebrate. Merry Christmas to Alex and Pat, both joining me today. At the same time, you guys got to figure it out. You get battle to the death. Who gets to go first?
Merry Christmas, Andre.
Oh, thank you.
Say Merry Meet to anybody celebrating solstice today.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Joke there. That's just the genuine happy holidays.
Okay.
Also, we are on episode 5. Hell yeah.
What?
Because binary 101.
Oh, okay. Well, no, we prestiged, and actually, this should be episode 1 now.
Yeah, you're right.
But instead, I need to inquire. What is your favorite Christmas video game or holiday, like winter holiday video game?
Oh God!
Like to play or themed around it?
Either one. You choose your favorite. You can take that however you want.
I would say back in the day, like I played a Quake 2 mod that was all Christmassy.
Hmm.
And maybe a Quake 3 mod, but I mostly remember the Quake 2.
All right.
Probably that.
I have heard that Death Stranding has placed Santa hats on all of the the preppers.
Yep.
Very nice.
Yep.
I don't know. That's a tough question. I like games that have I like to play games that have snow in them when it is cold outside, like snowy, where you're trudging around in the snow a lot. So for a while that was Skyrim, but I've kind of wrung out the enjoyment out of that game I've played that game a lot, so I'm not sure what I would play in its place. Viscera Cleanup Detail, the Santa one.
There was a Santa one in that?
Yeah, there is. It's bad. That game is all around bad. This is not a good game, in my opinion.
People seem to love it.
I don't understand why. I think that game is terrible. I mean,
it's a good gag.
It's funny. It's a good gag for sure. I think the developers know exactly what they made, and like they deserve the success that they got out of it. But also, it's not like a game you should want to play.
It came
it's like
out
$4, so
it came out at a time like with like Surgeon Simulator and like a lot of those physicsy
Like Goat Simulator.
simulate. Yeah, like where it's like middling games that are just entirely like sold on the premise of the joke and not on the merit of the game itself.
And they're all sold for like between $5 and $10, so it's fine.
Yeah, there's no $60 like, oh my god, I can't believe I spent money on this thing. But we have kind of gotten out of that time period.
There's a few of those.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things on Steam, so
like $60. I don't know if I should have spent that on this game.
Oh, well, there's plenty of those.
I mean, there's always that, but there's no like that kind of game, like that weird,
like a joke game.
The joke game is like, it still kind of exists. I don't know. Does A Dump in the Dark fall into that?
Oh, yes.
No, that game's great.
So
it could be a great and a joke game.
When I was a kid, I had the Grinch game for PlayStation 1, and I played that a lot.
I really like deeply love that Toy Story game from like the PS1 era, and I can't remember. There might be a Christmas part in that.
Kingdom Hearts has to have something Christmassy or holiday. Right?
Nightmare Before Christmas.
You go to there's Nightmare Before. Yeah, sure. Yes. In that case, one of the ones where you go to Nightmare Before Christmas.
And then Kingdom Hearts 2, you go to Nightmare Before Christmas, then you actually go to the North Pole.
Christmas Town. Yeah, that's I like Kingdom Hearts 2 a lot less than some of the other game. A lot less is not fair, but I'm not as most Kingdom Hearts fans, I think, would say Kingdom Hearts 2 is their favorite.
It's the best in the series.
I don't agree. It is still a great game, but I don't agree that it's the best. However, that Nightmare Before Christmas sequence is extremely good. So, yeah, you go to Frozen in Kingdom Hearts 3, and it's great.
Man, totally unrelated, but I woke up with fucking Mambo number 5 stuck in my head.
What about Disney number 5?
Disney?
So there's a
little bit of Minnie in my life.
Speaking of songs,
a little bit of Daisy by my side.
Speaking of songs that get stuck in your head, not quite the same, but I would say of a similar caliber. There's a Twitter account called Catatonic Youths that if you like to like damage your psyche with horrible things on the internet, you should probably follow.
Okay.
It just shares like absolute like garbage music video clips from like mostly from like really terrible screamo bands and like really awful metalcore bands and stuff. And one of the clips they shared was like home video style footage of like 25 white dudes at like a rec center or something doing an a cappella version of Cute Without the E.
Oh, Jesus, no.
It was so awful. So I listened to that song yesterday because that did get it stuck in my head, even though their performance.
Then you had to get the bad version out.
I don't know that there's a good version of that song.
I was gonna say.
Well, you had to get the worst version.
That's about as bad as Taking Back Sunday gets.
Yeah, if you're a listener, if you're wondering what the hell is going on, it's a slow week for video games. We've played some stuff, but there's not a whole lot going on in the world of games this week. It's right before Christmas. Everyone's going on vacation, so there's no news really.
Every developer goes on vacation this time of year. It's fact.
But you know what is going on, Andre?
Nobody puts out news this time of year.
No, that's true.
But Andre, there is something going on.
They nerfed 2B's butt.
Well, they did that, but also something that ends on December 23rd at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah, the world. It's been nice knowing you all. And
Exactly.
I wish I could do like a loud woo. Like a Ben Pack woo. Right,
I would welcome
now.
the end of the world. That is the end of our holiday giveaway over on Twitter, where you can enter to win like one of 20 games.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. 20 games. We've got stuff like What the Golf, Resident Evil 2, Control, MechWarrior 5. All sorts of games from this year and like the last 2 years, I think, 2017 till now. On PC, there is one PS4 game in that giveaway if you are so inclined. To enter, you can head over to our Twitter, which is @FixPodcasts, or you can go to fix.space/contest, or you can send us an email at gaming@fix.space and either send a picture of Jeff Keighley's butt or tell us what your most underappreciated game of the 2010s is, or what you think the most underappreciated game of the 2010s is, not the game that you appreciate the least or whatever. Like, I know it's good, I just don't.
Or send us the game you appreciate. That's fine.
I
mean, it could be that. Like,
that's totally allowed.
It's also pretty funny. So yeah,
like I don't like Minecraft, but like it's important. So if you want to get into that, you got until midnight, December 23rd, to do that. The night of the 23rd, not like the morning or whatever. Go ahead and do that, and we'll get you some games there on the 24th or whenever you get back to us after we contact you. With that, now we're going to get into the show proper, and Alex is going to tell us about his favorite Taking Back Sunday song.
Oh no, I'm not. That is not happening.
I want to make it clear. I like Taking Back Sunday. I like pop punk. I like the genre. I like the time period. There are other bands that I like more in that genre. Just that song is fucking bad.
Yeah.
And it has not aged well.
I think Punch Up the Jam did an episode about it.
It's catchy. Recently. It's bad.
Pat, you are so last summer.
And I will say that they're not exactly pop punk because they're more just pop than punk, but Motion City Soundtrack is the best band, like pop band, to come out of that era, and everyone should listen to them because they're the best. Anyway.
All right. Yeah, back on.
Play a video game, Alex? Is that what happened?
October 10th, Punch Up the Jam did Q without the E.
Oh, man. That might be the thing that gets me to that show.
Yeah. I played lots of video games.
Oh, that's good. I didn't.
I played one video game kind of a lot.
Yeah. I don't know. I have 2 that are completed. Let's talk about the one you guys haven't played first, I guess, just to get that out of the way.
Yeah.
So
I haven't played 2 of these, so.
Yeah, but from the ones I've played. Oh wait,
I don't even know what your list is, so I'm excited.
Oh, okay. Well, the one I've completed is one called Wattam, and I think that's one we've been hearing about for quite some time. It is the new game from famed creator Keita Takahashi, maker of such games as Katamari and Nobi Nobi Boy, which, by the way, I only recently found out Nobi Nobi Boy took like 7 years for people to actually finish.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
that was the game where they like you had to go like into space.
Girl had to stretch to the Pluto.
Yeah, and then she reached Pluto. She had to loop back. So that's why it took an extra couple of years. And I watched the ending, and it's actually really, really adorable.
Oh yeah, he's a phenomenal like artist.
Yeah, it was great.
And I don't just mean in terms of like visual art, but like art in terms of like conveying emotion and story with visual art.
Totally.
Yeah.
So yeah, that brings us to Wattam, which is very much in his style. Like you look at the characters and you're like, yep, that looks like a Takahashi character. And you listen to the soundtrack and it's the same. I think it's his wife that does the music, and she did it for Nobi Nobi Boy as well. Mm-hmm. So if you've played Nobi Nobi Boy, it sounds like really similar.
Yeah.
It is similar to Nobi Nobi Boy in that you start on like that like flat like island plane block thing, and then you're just kind of confined to there, and then eventually you move around and do some other stuff. But yeah, if you're not familiar with the game, if you haven't heard anything about it, essentially what happens is you play a character at the start, and then you make friends, and then you can switch to any of those friends. And as the game progresses, you get more and more friends, and then more and more like areas start showing up as well. So that's the very short version. It's a very short game, so it's like 2.5 hours is what it took me to finish.
I think that's the thing that is what's holding me back from wanting to pick it up, because like I'm not super in love with the gameplay concepts, but like the stuff that I have seen happen are very funny. Mm-hmm. So like we watched the Giant Bomb Quick Look last night, and we're just like cracking up because there's like I don't want to spoil it for people who are trying to not be spoiled, but there's a sequence in the game where poop is very prominent.
Oh yeah,
and it was extremely funny. And the little poops like raising their arms in the air and getting excited about being flushed in the toilet. Yep. Extremely funny.
Then they turn gold.
Yes. And then they have to make a poop stack. It's very good. But I also like, that was like 10 minutes of it that I really enjoyed and thought was funny. And knowing that it's like pretty short, it's kind of like, I don't know that I would enjoy, like, I don't know that if it's 2.5 hours of kind of gags like that, that's not really what I'm looking for. But I also am very glad that it finally came out and that like it's what people wanted, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I would say that it's not super gaggy. Like there are some more gags that are pretty funny as you go along. But surprisingly, it ends up having a pretty good story, which is not what I was expecting. But it actually
I'm not surprised. I think Katamari does as well. Yeah.
So it was really neat. I'll say sometimes the controls are absolutely fucking terrible.
Like, yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, like when you're trying to do stuff like hold hands with other friends and stuff like that, like it just does not control well. And unfortunately for me, it does have moments of like being kind of fetch questy or like busy worky, where it's like, oh, I see exactly what I need to do. This is just going to take time. It's not hard. So that was a little like, but overall, I think it's really, really good. And really charming and funny and like surprisingly emotionally poignant by the end. Mm-hmm. But also it's 2.5 hours and $20. So there's like,
that part doesn't really bother me. I mean, clearly a lot of love and work went into refining his style and stuff. So
that is true. Like it is definitely super stylish. And like I liked pretty much every minute with it.
I bet you it's a better 2.5 hours than watching Star Wars, which I ended up paying around $25 for after buying a drink.
Yeah.
You know, that's totally fair.
That's, how many put it like that.
How many golden poops were in Star Wars?
None.
It's the whole movie was.
There's no poop in this particular Star Wars. There is no poop.
Oh yeah, there is poop in another one though.
Oh yeah, it's the poop shows up.
Yeah. It's the whole screen. It's the whole reel. It's the doo-doo.
I enjoyed Star Wars, but I bet that Wattam is more enjoyable.
I mean, sometimes you got 100 turds on. You got infinite turds on infinite reels, and one of them's bound to be somewhat appealing. That's how that phrase goes, right?
Yeah, that turn of phrase, the famous one.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I don't want to say a lot about Wattam because it is so short, and but it's 100% worth playing if it seems like something that might appeal to you.
Yeah, it seems like a phenomenal game to play with kids too. Like if you have And again, this has been echoed by other people too, but I don't mean that as in like, it seems like a kid's game. It's just, it looks like the kind of game that would delight, like the part of you that it taps into anyway is the part of you that likes like kind of childish in the good way stuff. And it seems like a kid would get a lot out of it. And so playing it with a child would be an enjoyable thing because you get to see the kid's reaction to it and stuff.
Totally. Like, honestly, that is one of the most appealing things about it is that it has that kind of childlike wonderment. Like
exactly,
that whimsy is always around like the entire time, which is really awesome. Like you don't get that very much anymore. So like it never takes itself too seriously.
Yeah. I feel like the Lego games used to have that before the Lego started talking. And then that kind of, they went from being kind of whimsical and to being more like, oh, this is like a cartoon now, which is fine. I mean, they're still good, but
like they stopped having to convey everything through like motion and action, and then just could use the language as a crutch, sort of.
Yeah.
I think one thing that Wattam makes me think about is the concept, and obviously there have been plenty of games that this would apply to, but somebody should figure out a way in a way that isn't weird, because I think it would be weird for a lot of places to do this, but I would love it if Giant Bomb did this, for example, I would totally buy the game on my own anyway to support it. But like what I would love to do is watch like Alex, Vinny, and Abby play through, or Alex, Dan, and Abby play through the whole game instead of just doing like the first 20 minutes and a quick look. And somebody should figure out, maybe it's Google with Stadia, maybe it's Epic, I don't know. Someone should figure out a way to like sell you, like, hey, buy the game and get this exclusive Let's Play when you buy it that comes from such and such content creator. Obviously that would get weird because it's like a site like Giant Bomb also does some games crit. And so for them to get a paycheck from the publisher of the game for doing a Let's Play is weird. But I think that would be like a cool way to encourage people to purchase games that would normally just watch it be played and then not purchase it. Yeah. I think for like certain indie projects and stuff, that could be really cool.
Especially short games. Like I remember someone telling me, oh, I never played Florence, but I watched a Let's Play of it. And I'm like, well, Florence is like half an hour long and like, you should definitely play that.
And you should purchase games when you watch them played like that. It's one thing if it's like a huge publisher game, I don't think that's as big a deal, but or like for example, like if I could, director's commentary is certainly a thing in some games, but like if I could watch like Chris Remo and trying to think who would make sense to play like Gone Home through together and talk about it while they're playing and do like commentary but not commentary. I think there is a commentary track in Gone Home, but you still have to like play it yourself. I would love it if I could just sit back and watch them play through it.
So yeah, Wattam.
Sorry, that's a tangent, but
for fans of Katamari, Nobi Nobi Boy, and let's say Cargo, A Quest for Gravity. It's got some stuff.
Steve Gaynor would be the person I would want to watch play.
But yeah, one of the other games I touched, I have not finished. It's still in the process of being finished. Is one called Raging Loop.
It's not finished.
Well, I have not finished it.
Okay.
I have not reached the end of it.
I've heard some stuff about that game.
Yeah, I have as well, and I wanted to make sure I got to it before Game of the Year because that's in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But,
I'm done. I gave up.
Yeah, I've said in our chat that I've pretty much come to the conclusion that I'm probably not going to finish Death Stranding, and instead going to try and finish stuff that does not have representation.
I'm loving Death Stranding, and I would rather just play it at my own pace. And Yeah, I know. There's some stuff that I'm like, I don't really want to be spoiled, but at the same time, like... I'm not going to be spoiled. I'm just going to trust Andre to make decisions about that game and where it falls in certain award categories.
Yeah, we'll see.
You will have played both the games that I think could be my picks for best story. And I have a feeling that if I do not, well, I don't want to tangent again, but I do not think that Death Stranding is going to beat out Disco Elysium for me for best story. I would be shocked.
At this point, I don't think so. But
yeah, Raging Loop it's a visual novel, so that's probably not unexpected for something I brought. But it's also really interesting. It's very 999 AI in that it has a like a flowchart, in that you can like, you know, go to various points of the story, make choices, you collect keys that open like other points of the flowchart, etc. So it has that kind of thing going for it. Mm-hmm. But it also takes inspiration from board games like Mafia and Werewolf and stuff like that.
That's the thing that I thought sounded really interesting about it.
Yeah, so it's kind of got that board game like the Mafia Werewolf heritage, and they actually call those games out right in the intro.
Yeah,
which is interesting. So I'm only like 45 minutes into it, so it's like a 20 plus hour game. So I'm not far enough into. Yeah, see, that's why I'm spending my time with this instead of Death Stranding to see how it goes. But
yeah, sure.
I have to say the art is like surprisingly fantastic. Like the character art and everything like that, and all the CGs, they're really nice. And the writing has been extremely well localized so far. So like all pretty much everything is spoken with voice, and that's all in Japanese, and there's no option for English, which is fine. But the localized English in the text is like spot on.
That's good, because that was one of the things that looked like it could be questionable about it from the very little bit that I saw. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, it's been totally fine. Like it's been good. I'll just leave that there because I haven't gotten far enough into it to really have opinions on the story. But the setup has been interesting so far.
Cool.
Yeah. But one that I did finish is one that you also did finish, and Andre's in more or less the middle of.
Yeah, in early middle, I think. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and that's Disco Elysium.
Yeah, you said you're in day 3, right?
Yeah, day 3 now. Yeah.
That game's not that long.
I'm like 10 hours in.
Yeah, that's about half. I don't think it's a spoiler, so it's about halfway through it.
Yeah,
in terms of amount of time.
Day 3, you can get a ton of side shit done.
Stuff opens over the course of that game, so like the days don't all take the same amount of time.
Well, I sent at some point you can send your partner Kim off to do something.
Do a thing, yeah.
And that's what I did on the third day. So I don't know if that's what you did, but
I think I ended up doing that on the second day, actually.
I did that on the second day as well.
It took about until like 10 p.m. on the second day for me to get that body down.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
That's interesting. So you're going through day 3 without Kim?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. That is interesting.
That's interesting. I'd like to see how that plays out.
So I just got the body down. I've been talking to the lady. I don't know.
I can't remember if we've talked about Disco Elysium since I finished playing it. Well,
not since you finished playing it, because last week we talked about our underappreciated games.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I had finished it the weekend before. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And I finished it after. And
maybe this week we might have some new listeners. So should we give a rundown of what the game is in case they are unaware?
So have you played Planescape Torment? Because it's very similar to that.
Most people will probably say no.
It's an isometric RPG.
In kind of like aesthetic and slightly structured, but not really structured entirely.
Yeah, and Planescape had a lot of the thing. I understand why people make that comparison, and I don't think it's inaccurate. But Planescape also had a fair bit of that, like, okay, hit spacebar and command your people to fight things.
Right.
Like it had quite a bit of that Infinity Engine style. It's not an Infinity Engine game, I don't believe, but that Infinity Engine style, like pause and click and equip weapons and stuff like that. Whereas Disco Elysium is entirely devoid of that. Anything that any kind of conflict that you encounter is done through the same dialogue system that is operating for interacting with the world and dialogue and everything.
There are no quick time events. There is nothing particularly requiring reaction speed. Like it's all
and there's no like place your character here and then tell them who to shoot. Like it's not that kind of game. It's an adventure game in the way that you play it, but it has lots of dice rolls that reference your character statistics.
Yeah. And like it has some of the best branching paths for dialogue that I've maybe ever seen in a game, and just how much it influences everything that happens around it.
I would argue, I mean, I would say things like Gone Home would be in my top list of favorite written video games, like the writing in the games. I think Disco Elysium is like very up near the peak of that all-time list of favorite writing in games.
Which is really so much interesting. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say it has so much personality.
Yeah, totally. But what I was going to say was interesting because I remember we talked about this maybe a month or two ago when you're like, hey, is anybody planning on playing Disco Elysium? And Pat's like, oh, I played that at PAX or whatever.
Yeah, I was put off by it there.
You were like, the writing seemed pretty problematic. I don't know if I'm ever going to touch it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I kind of agree with you in part, but now that I've finished it, I think the parts that have problematic writing make total sense.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, it's, you can't sit and, I played that game for like a half an hour at PAX and was kind of uncomfortable because I was playing that game with people all around me and like looking over my shoulder and stuff, you know, like, which is not a fun way to play that game. And I think that was a bad environment to play it in because, you know, there is a lot of uncomfortable stuff in it, but it handles that uncomfortable stuff better than better than most media period that I've encountered. Including things like television and like in the sense that like if you look at a show like The Wire has a bunch of bad problematic stuff in it, but it confronts those things, and that's part of what makes it so good. That's the kind of thing that Disco Elysium has going on. It's just incredibly smart in the way because like you can play that game as like a raging racist if you want to, but the game makes it very clear that you're a piece of shit. As you go down that path.
Yeah, like people will treat you differently. Like it'll close entire conversation trees because people don't want to interact with you.
And it'll make the game harder. And not in like a fun, challenging way, in like a woof, this sucks. And it's so smart about like it's a game about empathy in a lot of ways, but it's not a game about sympathy. Totally. Which is super cool because it helps you understand. It's very realistic in the ways in which it helps you understand the world and people around you and their motivations for being terrible people. But it's not like, and so you should feel bad for them.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, so what you're saying is your motivation is you're a piece of shit, but I can't do anything about it because it's the real world. And I can't just like, it's not The Witcher where I can just cut your head off. Like when you reveal that you're a piece of shit.
It's interesting in that it's very political, but it also doesn't really take a stance on saying this is the right politic. This is whatever. Like it's very, very shades of gray. Like it's
I think there is a moralistic compass at the core of that studio that does kind of exist within that game. I just think it's not preachy. I don't think it's like, you know, I mean, they thanked Marx and Engels in their acceptance speech for awards at the Game Awards. So I think, you know, there is definitely a clear, I think that they do have a politic, but I don't think it preaches it to you. I think it more presents it. And to someone like me, it makes a lot of sense. And I largely agree with them about a lot of their politics, I think. But they don't try to like shove it down your throat and say like, this is the correct way, more as much as say, present a lot of interesting themes and concepts to you and kind of let you do what you will with it. Yeah.
But anyway, back to something that Andre was kind of alluding to, and well, more Pat, I guess. But with the conversation trees and the dice rolls and stuff like that, the conversation system that ends up happening is really fascinating because if you fail a dice roll, like except for one part in the game, like you can fail any dice roll and like you can still progress, things will continue. And it's actually really interesting to see how they continue if you fail that dice roll. Like I never really felt the need to roll back a save or save scum. There is one point where you have to, at one point that I can think of that you have to pass a dice roll, which is pretty near the end of the game. And if you don't, I I think you have to basically just keep trying until you do pass it, because like it's a gate basically. More specifically, it's a ladder. But anyways, so you know what I'm talking about, Pat. I think you need to pass that dice roll in order to actually.
I think there's a couple of different dice rolls actually that you can pass. But yes, there is a point at which you have to. I think there are actually a couple points in the story where you do have to make a check. Whether you make one or the other is kind of. But there are a couple points at which there's a physical thing in the environment that you're trying to interact with, and you can either interact with this physical thing or this physical thing, but you have to do one of them.
But yeah, like that's like, let's say 1 to 2% of the entire game, the checks that exist. So like the rest of those, like it's cool to just let it roll and see what happens, especially if you fail one that's like a sensitive conversation topic and you totally whiff, and it's just like now you come across as a piece of shit. But like that happens in real life, where you say something awkward and then you're like, well, I need to explain this, but I'm not very good at explaining it.
It teaches you literally in like the opening like half hour of the game, like there's a dialogue option where it like sets the tone where I was like, well, I would never say this is an awful thing to do, to try to like take this path, and it's a really low skill check chance, but it's a video game and I'm curious what happens if you go down this path, so I'm going to click it, and then I failed, and then the only thing you can say kind of fucking sucks. And then not only does it kind of fucking suck, but later on it comes back and bites you in the ass further.
Yeah, totally.
So
and
it's
that's another
really
thing that's another thing about the conversation system in this that I think is awesome, is you'll be presented with like, let's say 5 options, and a couple of them make your character come across as extremely shitty, like as just a total piece of shit. And I never clicked on them, but I know if I did, there's a full conversation tree that way. Like they explore that fully, and it's like fleshed out.
It's also just, it does some things, like I would say that it does things with characters in, like if you told me, there's a character that uses homophobic slurs frequently, I would say, fuck that. Well, first of all, if you told me that like 6 months ago, I would have been like, fuck that, I'm not playing that game.
Yeah.
But I certainly would not have expected to have come around on that character and actually come to like them by the end of the game. But the ways in which it portrays its characters is so smart, and it makes them, they're so multi-dimensional, where you come to learn over the course of the game, it's not really a spoiler, but like that character isn't necessarily homophobic. They just grew up in a setting where that's a thing they say all the time, and it's shitty. And eventually you can like have a conversation with them about it, stuff like that.
It's great. Yeah.
And I think that stuff is really, really, really smart. And I don't know. I don't want to get into, there's a point later in the game, Alex, where you encounter a couple of characters.
Yes. I know. One is called Fuck the World.
Yes. So, like that moment, I was like rolling on the ground, practically like cracking up.
Did you get the items from them that you can possibly get?
Yes, and then I did try to convince my partner to engage in using those items with me, and he refused to do so.
Yes.
Anyway.
I think Kim is an extremely good foil character in that game.
Yeah, the perfect straight man to my delusional superstar.
We'll have some spoiler talk when you finish.
Yeah. But I think I'm really kind of glad we're not doing a best new character category, because
Kim wins.
It would be so hard in my head. Well, I don't know if Kim wins, because there's a lot of good new characters this year, but he'd certainly be on the ballot.
I came around on Kuno too. Which is to say, that's one of the characters you're talking about.
Yes. Yeah. And he's very abrasive. He says pretty awful shit at times.
He does awful shit. Like he's the example.
He's also like a 12-year-old. He's like a 12-year-old that does speed all the time, or 14-year-old maybe, but but
he's a kid,
like a drugged up kid. And he's a drug dealing kid. And like shitty.
Yeah, like he's probably the reason you were questioning the writing of this, like at PAX, right? Because
for sure,
because he drops the homophobic F-bomb. But the thing is that
and a lot.
Yes, and the thing is that you talked about this 2 weeks ago when we talked about Disc Elysium, but to reiterate that when he's dropping those slurs, like the writers of the game know the weight of that, so they actually censor it. It's the only thing that's censored in the entire game.
Yeah,
which
they censor it both in the text and in the spoken voiceover.
Yeah,
which is smart. I think that's a good thing.
Which I think actually gives it the weight it deserves than if they had left it uncensored.
And it gives you a clear indication of like, hey, they know what they're doing when they are engaging with these. I think it's a signal to both the weight of that particular word and also to the way that they handle topics. I mean, because there's a lot of, there is a character who's into phrenology. There are characters who are like into fascism, as in like openly saying they are fascists. Like, so yeah, there are characters who are very openly misogynists.
Racists.
So like, so there's a lot going on there, but I think the game does. I think what's important to me, and I think why it works, is the game does have a moral compass, and the moral compass isn't just like resistance Twitter, like look how bad all these things are. It's like instead of looking at you and saying, do you see how bad all this is? It's standing beside you and saying, wow, this is fucked up, isn't it? And I think that's really smart.
Yeah. So Andre, what kind of character are you playing? Are you like a really strong dumb guy, or?
I did the one with like the Inland Empire.
Yeah, that's what I ended up
remade.
Yeah, that's how I went.
Yeah. I think if I re-rolled, that's what I would do.
And that gives you lots of like insight into things, or you'd be like, but it's like weird insight. Yep. And like there's a skill called Shiver, which is like,
yes, Shiver is so cool.
Like a shiver goes up the back of your neck, and you're like, I know things that I'm not supposed to know.
So I like how Shiver is kind of an asshole when when that system talks to you, because your systems talk to you.
Yeah, all of your skills have like, they're all like part of your psyche, and they all talk to you.
Yeah.
And like the Esprit de Cops or whatever,
knowing about how cops work. Yeah.
And you'll get like, you'll do like a cop thing, and then like, or Kim will say something, but he'll say like half a sentence, and then like if your skill is high enough, you'll get like a readout like, here's what he means. Like, don't say this thing because he really doesn't want you to say this thing.
Yeah.
Or
that's
like,
cool.
or like you'll get like a flashback to like your partner or like people from your precinct, like in some other meeting or like in some other interaction.
And that stuff is written so well too.
Yeah.
Like so like a lamppost on a street corner flickers in the office window, blah, blah, blah. It's just like riveting the way that a lot of that stuff is written. I also love too, that game has like active skill checks that are very simple, where you have a number that you're trying to hit, and then you have your skill, and then you roll 2 6-sided dice, and it combines the dice with your skill, and if it passes the number, you win. You can get bonuses from clothing, you can get bonuses from having done other things and observed things, gone down different conversation trees. It's a cool skill check system that's very simple and super tabletop-y, and super reminiscent of modern tabletop games that don't have combat in the same way, which are, in my opinion, some of the more interesting ones available, where everything is based around the same set of dice rolls. But if the other thing it has, though, is those passive skill checks that happen, which are kind of like what you get from games like The Outer Worlds. I think that the difference here, though, is that it's not selectable dialogue options. It's just, if you have, like, if you're talking to someone who's high and you have a high electrochemistry, it'll pop up and say like, hey, this person is probably on this or whatever. And at different times, there's different like value in those things. And what's cool is that sometimes your own skill checks will be like, hey, you should say this, but actually saying that is not the right thing to do, even though you succeeded.
And I've had different skills like tell me, oh, you should say this, and then another skill pops up is like, don't say that, that's that's weird.
Yeah. And it plays with that stuff sometimes.
Yeah. It's all been really funny to watch like this stuff play out. Like early on, there's a thing where the hotel you're staying in is like, you owe us a lot of money. Yeah. And like the choices you can make, one of them is the result. That's
like the very start, right?
Yeah. Like it's like one of the first choices you can make, like the first conversations you have. And the outcome of the choice I selected was like so much more like over the top than I was expecting.
Yep.
Like because you'll get moments where like a little scene will play out where you don't have control of what's going on. You just say, okay, this is what I say, or like this is my action, and then something plays out. And depending on your skills, maybe that goes well, maybe it doesn't go well. And it's just so over the top, and like why anyone would do that, I don't know. But then that kind of informed how I decided I was going to play. And so I'm doing like Superstar Cop and
awesome.
Yeah, Superstar Communist Cop. So
see, I had the Star. I played there's a whole other system in the game, the Thought Cabinet, which is super fascinating, where you basically like I talked about communism a bunch of times to people, and then your like internal monologue stops you and is like, hey, you communist? And you can be like, no, or you can be like, yes, fuck yeah, let's do it. And there's various points at which like I think there's like 63 or something thoughts you can internalize. I ended up getting like 8 of them over the course of one playthrough. So there's like a lot of variation.
You can see what they all are though.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And over time, I think it helps you kind of like try to maybe game it once you've played it a couple times, if you're just trying to see things, which is nice. But what it does is like over time you internalize the thing, and then once you're done internalizing it, it literally is like in-game time that it takes to internalize it. Once you're done internalizing it, you get certain bonuses and negatives based on the thing. So like with communism, I forget the things that it gives you a minus in, but it gives you you get bonus experience points whenever you say a piece of like leftist dialogue. And it's really, really interesting. And some of them are extremely funny. Instead of Superstar Cop, I was like Super Sorry Cop. So I was like sorry all the time I kept like, I would apologize for being a massive piece of shit all the time. And it's very funny.
Yeah. And it's interesting because some of those thoughts, when like you get to the end of them and there's not actually any bonus, there's nothing at the end. It's just like, oh, this is just some world building dialogue and that's it.
Yes. Yeah. And it's also sometimes it's like, oh, I'm going to internalize fascism. And then you get to the end, and I actually didn't do that in my playthrough, so I don't know how that goes, but like you get to the end. I do know that with some of them you get to the end and it's just like, you're a piece of shit. You got minuses to these things now. Yeah. But at least you worked out in your head that you're awful.
Yeah, totally.
And it says it more eloquently than that, but it's smart.
So one of the ones I internalized that I thought was really interesting was, what's it called? The homosexual agenda.
Yes.
Which it was actually really interesting what it opens up to you later. Like some of the story things it opens up to you later are really interesting.
Yeah. And a lot of that stuff looks bad on the surface when you hear that. Like if you hear that you can internalize a thought called the homosexual agenda.
I don't remember if that's actually what it's called.
That's what it's called.
Is it? Okay.
Yes. I didn't do that one, but yes, that's what it's called. But so much of it is, I don't know. It's really smart about the way it deploys all that stuff. So I definitely am glad that I played it, because I also am very excited for what that team does next. And I have a lot of faith in them to continue to like deliver really challenging, interesting experiences, which is, I think part of it is that it is something that video games are very rarely challenging in the intellectual sense. They can often be challenging from a gameplay perspective, but there's not a lot of like, it's just rare. I'm not saying they don't exist. There's you could play enough.
Rare does exist. They make games.
Man, imagine a Rare produced Disco Elysium.
There are plenty of intellectually challenging games. You could play one probably
Conker's Bad Disco Elysium
forever. But I think it's exciting that this game is like one that does that and is also like pretty much perfect in all of the other ways that you expect, like from like a technical and art direction and design standpoint. Like literally the only problem that I had with the game was the inventory interface gets kind of crowded because you're like collecting clothes to put on over the course of the game, and there's no way to sort or filter any of them, and there's no way to say like show me all the ones that increase my empathy. So that was a bit of a pain, but otherwise that was like the only thing about the game that frustrated me at any point.
And that didn't even frustrate me that much either, because like
no, it wasn't that big a deal.
You also never run out of inventory space, so which is nice.
You kind of get a feel for like, oh, that's right, this thing does this. It's not like there's a lot of clothes in that game, but there aren't so many. It's not like Diablo style, like random loot. It's all very curated, so you can kind of infer. But it's a great game.
And I have to say the ending is tonally right what I would want from that game.
It's perfect. So
I won't say anything more about that because you haven't finished it, Andre. But
probably have to spoil the shit out of that game when best story happens for sure.
There's some
although I think all of us there's only one person that hasn't played it like at all, and Sam's not going to listen to the spoiler talk about that game because he's excited to play it on PS4.
He did play it, but he said it didn't work on his laptop.
So. Right. Yeah. So he wants to play it when it comes out on PS4. So I think it might we may not actually end up having to spoil that much because
there's some stuff we need to
discuss it. Yeah.
I almost think we could also just talk about that game spoilery if we want to, like in another venue.
Man.
Well, I will say that being only 9 hours in, I have like had the thoughts of, I wonder if I played this another way.
Yeah, right.
Which I did not expect to go in and like feel that strongly about it, because like I went into the Outer Worlds and was like, I'm going to play this as like the bad guy, and then this doesn't seem all that different, but I'm like I can feel I can see the ways, and like
totally.
It's definitely still a diamond, but
the thing is
there are like so many different ways that things can play out.
It doesn't really reach the other end of the diamond until like the last hour and a half. And then the diamond that you're doing up until that point is so fucking broad. Like you can do so many things.
There are things at the end. Like there is a major element of the last bit of that game that changes.
Yeah, we talked about it. You and I had totally different experiences with the ending.
Yeah. So that does happen.
Even if the story was essentially the same. Yeah. Like you and I had totally different. It played out completely differently.
The lens that you view the ending through is, and I think, it's also just a, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's definitely it's a smart. Video games have this problem where there always has to be the like, oh, holy shit moment near the ending of games where like everything goes fucking crazy and like you find out about the crazy thing. And Disco Elysium is so much smarter about how it engages with those tropes than most games.
And
it never feels sensationalized in a way that like detracts from the quality of the writing and storytelling.
And Andre, to your point about the Outer Worlds, I think I even mentioned when we talked about Outer Worlds like a month ago, that I made a save before decision points to see how the different options would play out. And in Outer Worlds, no matter what you did, it was basically like 90-ish% the same. The only thing that would change is like one piece of dialogue after you make the choice, and then the rest is the same. I did the same at a few points in Disco Elysium, and they were wildly different. Like you go down one path and it takes 20 seconds. You go down this other path and it's like 20 minutes. Like you're fully exploring a completely different like train of thought, and it's really fascinating.
I talked to this one lady. So in like the basement You can find like there's a fridge and you can turn it off.
Yep.
And I did that, and then like I talked to someone else later, and like I was talking to them about the fridge, and I was like, oh yeah, I did something so I could become something. Like I killed something so I could become something. I'm like, why is this even here? Why does that? And like when you do the thing, Kim's like, why did you do that?
Yes.
It's just like, yeah. It's the stuff it lets you say, like, it gets truly bizarre with the dialogue.
And so I mean, it has moments of like genuine, like I felt every emotion playing that game for sure, but it is so funny. It's so funny. And I say that as someone who I don't think I'm largely not interested in written like in comedy that is like written and thought out beforehand. Like I like improvisational stuff, conversational kind of comedy. Sure. That's what makes me laugh. Mm-hmm. But Disco Elysium is like, I can say very easily the funniest game that I have ever played, like by orders of magnitude. It is just, and it's not to say that the thing is a comedy, because I mean, it has tragedy and, you know, really deeply touching moments and sad moments. And there's like a side thing that I did that moved me like deeply, but it's just so funny. And I couldn't, the number of times that I was just sitting at my desk, like almost in tears laughing at something it's incredible for that.
Yep. It's truly something special.
It doesn't spoil the conversation at all, but like it has, I think, my favorite piece, at least from a humor perspective, of dialogue ever, which is talk about asses and fucking.
Yep. Yeah, there's I have some screenshots of some pretty funny moments too.
It's just so funny. Yeah, anyway, we should move on from Disco.
Yeah, we've talked.
We'll be talking about it a lot in a couple of weeks.
The Subway's fresh indie game of the year.
The freshest. Anyways, yeah,
freshest.
that's my last game.
Yeah. Well, Pat, you've got some not new games.
Well, one of them's not out yet, technically. One of them is in beta 0.12.
What? Hasn't this game been kicking around for like years?
Yes. And it's still very early in development, beta wise. So I think I'll talk about something else though to get to that.
Okay.
So I've been on like kind of a shooter kick this week. And I've wanted to play stuff that's competitive. Some friends and I played that Insurgency Sandstorm game a fair bit last week, which I don't need to go into because that game it's good if you want like a modern warfare shooter that is like leans into realism to some extent, leans into realism in the concept of like low time to kill. So like you get shot a couple of times. It has the problem that a lot of those kinds of games have where like you never know where you're getting killed from. And you spend a lot of time waiting to spawn. But it's fun. And so anyway, that made me want to play some Rainbow Six Siege, that paired with Mike Mahardy from GameSpot talking about new Siege characters on the Giant Beast cast. And anytime Mike Mahardy talks about a game, it makes me want to play it, even if it's a game I know I don't like that much. Like, for example, Void Bastards Super did not click with me this year, but Mahardy like fucking loves that game, and it made me play it for a lot longer than I normally would have because of his like passion for it. So anyway, I ended up playing quite a lot of Siege this week. Last night it started to click, and I don't know if it's because I played a lot of it this week and finally started to understand it more, or if it's because my MMR fell low enough that now I'm getting matched with people that are as bad at it as I am, or what. But last night I played for a couple hours and started to like win some games and get some kills and stuff. And it started to get really, really, really fun. But have either of you, I know you've played Siege and pretty
immediately. I did not care for it.
Yeah. Alex, have you played any Siege before?
Not Siege, but I've played a lot of Rainbow Six.
Yeah. Part of what is appealing to me for that game now is that it also is just like fully engaged in the G.I. Joe stuff. Like and that's something they talked about on the Beastcast. But like when that game started, it was like, here's this Spetsnaz guy. You can tell he's Spetsnaz because he has a mask on, or like a cloth face mask on. And like this woman has a hat on that says FBI. And their abilities were kind of out there, and they used some weird like future techie stuff, but it was still very like grounded in this person looks like a Green Beret. And then it started to go a little bit. They introduced characters from BOPE, which is the like Brazilian special police force. I should also say that this is a game where you play as international police killing each other, which is in Rainbow Six world, all the police are good guys and they don't do bad things, and the bad guys are bad and the police kill the bad guys, which is not a realistic thing at all. And
yes, especially when Ding Chavez is involved.
And as someone from the United States, I would say that I don't have a very positive opinion of police forces as a concept or as a reality. However, in Rainbow Six, I can suspend my disbelief and accept that the people from the Brazilian urban special police are not awful. I don't know anything about them in real life. They might be terrible. Probably are, because most police forces are. But they started to go a little bit in the fantastical direction when like there's this really cool woman named Kavira, who she has like face paint on and like long fingernails, and that's not really relevant to her kid, but that's how she's cool looking. And her thing is, her ability is she like gets very quiet so you can't hear her coming, and then takes out her silenced pistol, and you can like, and she moves very fast so you can kill people, and then while they're down you can like interrogate them about where their friends are, and then you get like vision on enemies for a minute. So it started to get a little more fantastical. Now there's a guy who lives underwater most of the time. His thing is he's like kind of like a fish man. He's a man. He's from Kenya, and he's in a PMC. And his character, though, like lives most of his life underwater, which, and not like underwater, like in an underwater base, like like shape of water. Like he likes to live in a tank, which is very strange. So it's leaning into some of that, like super weird. They wear like wetsuits. There's an Australian character from this year that has a motocross helmet on. Like it's getting much more fantastical in kind of a fun way. But that game gets really fun when you start to really understand how to play it, and like what the way the characters' abilities interact is really cool, and the way the different weapons work is really interesting, and it's very much also a game about like understanding and learning the maps. And it has really, really good maps, really cool. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that game in its current form. One of the dumb things about it, and I don't understand this, Ubisoft is like terrible at selling their video games. And they are not the only game that has this problem, although For Honor, which, I've played on and off this year with some friends, does it far better. So at this point, there are 52 operators in Rainbow Six, I want to say. There's like 26 attackers and 26 defenders. The base game only comes with like 16 of them.
That doesn't seem right. That seems low.
No, they want to get to...
It seems like the total number is low.
They want to get to 100, but they're at like...
100 total.
Yeah, but they're at like... The year 4, I believe there's 56 characters. Let me tell you, it does not seem low when you're kitting out the weapons for 56 characters individually, which took me like 2 hours on Wednesday night. to go through and put an ACOG scope on, because they each have multiple guns. So to go through and put an ACOG scope on like 100 different guns was not fun. I don't know what the solution is. In theory, what it would be is you would have been playing all along. So you'd be unlocking those characters as they come out and then putting the weapons on them. So I can't fault the game for that. What I can fault the game for, so I purchased the game on Steam, like not that short, like pretty shortly after it came out. Like it came out and it was kind of a mess. And then once they first got it fixed, I picked it up because I'm a big Rainbow Six fan. Like I played the old Rainbow Six games all the time. So I was like really excited to play it as soon as I heard it was good. So I bought it. It was like they had like dropped the price to $40 or something and started to really turn it around. So then I put it down because I was bad at it. And at the time felt like the reason I was bad at it is because of Twitch skill that I was never going to learn. Turns out it's far more about knowing where to look. It's not really a twitchy game. It can be, but you don't have to be super, super, super good at like Counter-Strike to be good at it. So then I came back to it with some friends who wanted to check it out. And I bought the year one operator pack that comes with like the first set of added characters from that first year. And that was like $20 or something like that. So every year they do a pass.
And you bought that this year?
No, this was like last year.
Okay.
Every year they do a pass. So when at the time at which I bought it, they were into year 3, I think. Mm-hmm. But I just bought the first year of characters because I was like, this is enough for me to play with for now. Even though there were a bunch more that I didn't have. So this week I was like, well, the Steam Winter Sale started. Uplay is also doing a sale on their launcher for the winter. So then now would be the time, because I have played like a good 12 hours of the game this week or whatever. I should, and I'm clearly enjoying it, so I should pick up these operators. So you can buy an Ultimate Edition on Steam that comes with everything for about $40, which is a fantastic deal right now. It's normally $100. It's on sale. Anyone who knows they're going to like the game and doesn't have it yet, totally buy it. In fact, buy it even if you're not sure. Play it for an hour and then refund it if you don't like it. If you already own the game, you cannot purchase that because of how Steam works. They do not sell the year 2 and 3 bundle that comes in that Ultimate Edition on its own. There is no way to purchase it on its own on Steam. You can, in the game, the only way to get the year 2 operators, if you already own the game on Steam, is to purchase the year 2 bundle within the Rainbow Six client that you do using siege points, which are like the paid currency. It's just like League. It has like a paid and a free currency for character unlocks. You can grind out the characters with the free currency, but I don't play it enough to be able to do that. So especially not for as many characters as there are. So you could buy the year 2 bundle, which costs $20 in siege credits. If you want the year 3 characters, which come in a bundle in the Ultimate Edition on Steam that you can't buy separately, if you already own the game, you have to buy each of the year 3 characters individually, which is like pretty expensive because they're designed to be sold as a pass, not really as individual characters. So the pricing is like, each one is like $5 and there's like 8 of them. So it gets expensive. But good news, if you want the newest characters in year 4, you can get the year 4 pass on both Steam and Uplay on sale for $17 right now. Ultimately, what I ended up doing, and what you can do, is you can purchase the Ultimate Edition of the game on Uplay, even if you already own it on Steam and Uplay. You're technically paying for the base game. I technically paid for the base game and season 1 characters again because they're included in the Ultimate Edition, and I did not get a key to like share those to someone else, but it still was way cheaper to do that and get the year 2 and 3 characters plus the year 4 characters than it would have been to kit it out and buy it individually. But the whole thing is fucking stupid. Why you can't just say some of the year 2 characters in a bundle, year 3 characters in a bundle, and the year 4 characters in a bundle is beyond me, considering that they sold them all as bundles while they were being released. It's just insane.
Yeah, like digital sales stuff has come a long way in like this generation of consoles, from basically being barely a thing the last gen. Like it was a thing, but it was not great really. And then now this generation, things have gotten better, but there are still weird things like that where it's just like, why can't you just make this make sense? You're so flexible in like what you can put up and pricing, and because you're working with like one party and not having to do with like a ton of different retail stuff.
And what's so weird is that For Honor has the exact same model. They release fewer characters for For Honor because it's kind of, I mean, people who play a lot of fighting games would probably say it's blasphemy, but it's closer to a fighting game than anything else really. But For Honor does the same thing, and yet like a few months ago when my friends and I were into it, there happened to be a sale and I picked up I had the year 1 For Honor pass. I picked up the year 2 bundle and this is I think year 3 for Honor. Maybe it's year 4. I don't remember, but I picked up all the bundles individually on sale for like between $8 and $15 each or something. And it worked. It was fine. There was no, I like bought them all through Uplay, and there was no like confusing stuff about it. It was just like, hey, here's a bundle you want for, that's what it was. There's the year 2 bundle and then the Marching Fire expansion, because for that year they just did a big expansion instead of a rollout of characters, because they introduced a whole new faction. And then there's the current bundle. And you can just buy them. You don't have to do a dumb, like buy the Ultimate Edition on sale and not get every piece of content from it because as like gifts and stuff. I don't know. It's dumb.
What if what they wanted was for you to sign up for Uplay Plus?
I mean, maybe, but why would they offer that for Honor and not for Siege?
I don't know.
That's what's confusing.
Well, also, never mind, because Rainbow Six Siege. Oh no, yeah, Ultimate for year 4 edition is on Uplay
I would hope.
Plus.
I would hope it's in that.
Yeah. There's a lot of Tom Clancy. It's hard to read the list. Okay, there's a lot of Clance.
Also, Siege is listed under Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege in Steam, and it's like painful to me because I go to clip like, wait, where's Rainbow Six? Oh, right, it's under T.
Yep.
Yep. Stupid, but yeah, but
Tom Clance, do not besmirch the Clance.
While I totally understand why anyone would bounce off of Siege because it is kind of a weird acquired thing, I also think it's a cool game and totally worth checking out if you are looking for kind of a hardcore-y shooter. And also a shooter that's like pretty cerebral too. That's the other thing. And it starts to get real fun once you start to feel confident enough on the maps to like not sit in the corner of a room and point your gun in one direction. And instead you're like, I bet they're going to come around. I heard an explosion in there, which means they're probably going through this barricade. So I can probably flank them if I go up the stairs and then come down this window. That's when it starts to get like, oh, this is the game. The game is figuring out where they are and then setting up flanks and stuff. And it gets super, super, super cool and entertaining. So yes, highly recommend that. And that interest in wanting to play like super tactical sort of low time to kill stuff, combined with seeing Khalif from Spawn on Me talking about a game that I had heard of but didn't know like anything about called Escape from Tarkov led to me picking that game up. And that game is fucking weird. It's like very Eastern Europe, both in its setting and in the team that makes it is super Eastern European in ways where
developed by a Russian studio. So
yes, in ways where they're both like very committed to delivering a incredibly like tight, well, like interesting experience, but also they seem like maybe they might be kind of shitty. in the ways in which they deal with particularly people who are critical of them. So, if you're very much like YouTubers' rights, which I guess I can respect, they have had clashes with members of their content creation community. But at the same time, one thing that I thought was interesting is this is a game that's like in beta, and like I was saying, it's in like 0.12 beta. And yet if you like go on the subreddit for the game, it is extremely positive. Like everyone seems to love it. The big criticism people had of it was when they had their kind of PR disaster last year, which was tied to people found something in some code that seemed to imply that it was like leaking data, not to the government, just exposing it, like passwords and stuff, but it wasn't true. Like it wasn't actually borne out at all. There was no data breaches that were really occurring. But like it was sort of got conspiracy theory-ish where people were like, this is happening and they're not telling us about it. And like, and so a YouTuber made some videos talking about like, oh, they're bad with data privacy. And the developer claims that was false and there was no evidence to back it up. So they DMCA'd the videos because they were like, this is false information and it's hurting sales of the game. And so it needs to come down. I don't really have an opinion on it because I don't like YouTube. And like, I don't know anything about that content creator. So I don't know what the tone of that stuff was. I don't really have an interest in pursuing it, but they're kind of a weird team. I could definitely see people saying like, hey, I don't want to support this. So totally fair. What that game is though, like it's kind of a mystery because it's, when you look up stuff about it, it's all like, oh, this is the most hardcore shooter ever made. And it's not on Steam. So you have to go buy it like through their website. And to do that, you have to like register for an account, put in 2-factor, then go to purchase it, and then put in 2-factor again. And then it takes like 10 minutes to validate to your account that you purchased it. And so it's like, it's a weird process even purchasing that game, but it's actually super fucking cool. And a really unique thing where I kind of had assumed that it was like a stick and rock game. That's kind of what I thought it was based on what little I had heard.
Oh no.
It is not that at all though.
No.
It is kind of an MMO in some respects, but not a contiguous world. It is like you have a character and your character progresses down a leveling path. And in the most recent patch, they added a whole like hideout system where you're like, you can build up a shooting range. You can build a Bitcoin farm in your hideout. Like what? You can build a bunch of shit, which it's not clear to me yet if the Bitcoin farm actually farms real Bitcoin or not.
Like, that wouldn't be surprising.
I can't tell if it's just like, I think it might just be like passive income for your character, but it also might actually farm Bitcoin. I'm not sure. But anyway, you have like, so you start with this character and you have a set of equipment, and what you do is go on raids is what they're called. Anytime you load into the game, you're on a raid. And a raid there's currently 7 maps ranging in size. But like they're big. Even the smallest one is like a big fucking map, and big, and every door is enterable. There's lots of buildings. Like it's a really dense map of stuff. So you go into these maps, and when you're on the map, it's a lot like PUBG. You are moving through the environment. You choose what equipment you have stashed that you want to take in with you. So that's a little different than PUBG because there is power advantage, and you can fucking straight up buy versions of the game that give you better shit at the start. So there is certainly a kind of weirdness there. But apparently the tactic among most players is you can upgrade the edition of the game that you have, and they wipe your progress all the time. So you like when the game goes on sale, most people like bump up to the next edition of the game. Anyway,
weird.
Yeah. And it's not like it's a cheap game. The base game is like $40. So you go in these maps and it's like kind of like PUBG. You're interacting with like crates and stuff. It has weird stuff. Like when you open a crate, it's not like you just see, the interface is very similar to PUBG.
So wait, so are you saying it's similar to PUBG or similar to Arma?
I would say it's more similar to PUBG.
Okay.
The ways in which you can control how you move are more like Arma. Like you scroll your mouse wheel to determine your walk speed. You can crouch at different rates. So you can like hold the C button down and roll the wheel to be at different levels of crouched. There's like 10 different degrees of crouching you can do, or you can just hit C and crouch the full amount quickly.
That does sound Arma-esque.
Yes, there's proning. The weapons, the thing I don't like about Arma is I don't like how the guns feel. Even though they have a good ballistics model, I don't enjoy them. That is not the case in this game. The guns in this game are fucking incredible. Like, holy shit. When they have like, they're hard to use, but they feel like each part of the gun is like a moving part that operates. And I should say, I hate guns in real life, but video game guns, I like the way that they're handled in different games. And in this game, it's like they're really well animated and they feel very realistic, I guess is the way to put it. And so that's the big difference with, yes, that's the big difference with Arma, and not simulated in a super janky, like, fuck, all these physics things are happening. They feel like it feels like it works really well. It feels very, very polished in the ways that the combat works. But like when you like open a chest, it'll be like, at first you won't see anything in the little inventory window. And then you'll slowly start to see like silhouettes appear. And the idea is like your character is going through the chest, finding it, and then you have to right click the stuff and examine it to actually see what it is. So you'll be able to see like, oh, this is shaped like a magazine. So it's probably ammunition, but I don't know what kind of ammunition it is yet. So you right click and examine it. And then, so it's like that.
That sounds tedious.
And that happens. It kind of is, but it's also designed in such a way that, you know, if you're a solo player, you can be very exposed while you're examining stuff and picking it up. And you can put it in your inventory and examine it later. So you can always like grab it and then go look at it. But inventory space is at a premium because another big aspect of the game is if you die, when you lose everything that you have on you, except for the stuff that you put in a special little case that is pretty small. So you're not going to be putting like guns in there. You're going to be putting like money that you got and stuff.
When you die, how often is it for you to get teabagged?
So I haven't played with players yet. Okay. The other thing is that the maps are populated by both players and AI scavengers called scabs. And the AI is not particularly smart, but it can be pretty troubling. Like I've been playing in the offline mode, which you can do to kind of practice. It's like nothing, you don't get anything from the offline mode, but you don't lose anything either. So you can kind of explore the maps and try the combat out and stuff without gaining or losing anything. And I was getting my ass kicked by the AI, even though they're not super smart, just because I have like garbage stuff right now. So there's also like a whole set of, the goal is you load into these maps and then you run around, you collect loot, and kind of get hopefully better stuff than what you came in with. And then you go to an extraction point, and there is a time limit. But they're long. So it's like an hour. So like you can't spend more than an hour on the map. You're probably only going to do it for 20 minutes though, because you're going to run in, you're going to fight a couple scavengers. They usually have like pretty shitty equipment. But it's decent if you're just starting. You might encounter a player, and you know, like PUBG and other games that has proximity voice chat, you could kind of link up with the player and say, because you can sort of squad up with friends, but there's no specific differentiation. Like when you squad up with friends, it just makes you spawn together and you're presumably chatting with each other. You could still shoot your friend. Like the PvP is all hot all the time. So you can shoot a player from across a parking lot and then go take their stuff. And maybe you had a shitty sniper rifle, but they didn't have head armor on and you got a headshot, and they had like a really good assault rifle. And now you have the really good assault rifle. And now you need to extract because you got this really good assault rifle.
Sounds like
and because yeah, it is. It's like the Dark Zone, but way more brutal and way more interesting. And then on top of that, there's a whole set of traders that when you're not in a map, you can like sell stuff to them and buy stuff from them. And there's straight up money. And then there's also a bartering system.
Traders.
Yeah, not traitors, but traders. And they have missions for you too, which is really where the kind of like, it's not just go in and get better loot. It's also like this mission, you have a mission to go into this map, kill 5 scavs and bring back 2 shotguns. And so you do get goals, and the goals escalate into like, there are like raid bosses in the game and stuff, where you have to like fight a really hard NPC enemy for certain missions. And it's really, really interesting. And like you level up and get like skill points. I don't know how the skill systems work, because I don't think it straight up just like gives you better damage or something. I think it's more like you get more things available. And then you look and so every gun in the game is made up of parts. So like you start with like a base, and then there's like 15 parts of each gun, and you can take it apart and sell the parts individually. And you can like fully equip guns, like, and not just change like the scope that's on them. You can change like the receiver and like the trigger and stuff. So when you take the gun apart, it's like 20 different pieces in your inventory. And there's like one piece that is like the base, but again, it's not the base. Like it's an assault rifle. If you just equip the base without the parts on it, like, I don't think you can equip the base because it's literally just like the handle. And then you're putting all these different parts on that all look different and have different like properties. And then you can like save gun builds. It's just wild. I'm like kind of blown away at the depth of the thing, but it's also a thing where that depth is like, you could also spend 2 hours getting all the parts to make your perfect build, and then you load into the map and get shot in 5 minutes, and someone takes that gun away from you, and then you never get it. So
that sounds like DayZ at that point too. So yeah, you can tell where they got their influences from.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very fascinated to see it. Like, and they're at like 0.12, and at this point, it seems like a pretty fleshed out game. There's still no ending. Like, eventually, the idea is that you can escape from Tarkov. Like you can go down all the mission paths and do a final like escape mission. But yeah, it's a wild game. If you're into military sims, I think it's interesting to check out. And again, I've only played it a little bit offline, and gotten fucking wrecked every time I load it in by AI. But it seems like the community really like loves the game too. It doesn't like a lot of games. If you drop in on the community, there'll be like complaint posts mixed with good things, even for games that people really like. But this game, I scrolled through that subreddit for a while, and it was all like, check out this awesome build. I really love the way that this thing works. So yeah, it seems pretty cool. Yeah.
That I've known about that game for a while, and it has always sounded like a insurmountable nightmare of a game.
Yeah, and I may end up coming away with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, it sounds like you're enjoying it, and like I can totally see where people would enjoy it, like especially with, you know, games like Arma, DayZ, that kind of thing. But I want nothing to do with it.
I'm enjoying poking at it for sure.
Yeah,
I know what kind of shooter you're wanting to play, Andre. The one you have been playing.
Destiny 2 started their second battle pass season of Dawn like last week, I think. This is the second week.
Like Don Rickles?
No. Like the sun. Like night is darkest before the dawn Rickles. Regular old sun rising dawn.
Gotcha. Not hanging dawn.
Season
of Dong. That'd be
Season of Dong. That'll get me to go back. I think it's really interesting that you have kind of continued to play that game, because like I was very hot on finishing Forsaken in the beginning of Shadowkeep, and then very quickly fell off of Shadowkeep, and kind of not just because I was playing other things, also because I was like, I was sold on this when they talked about it, but now doing it, I'm not sure if I like it. So I think it's interesting that you seemed less sold on it.
Oh, I was like, what the fuck are they doing? This is stupid.
And now idiots. You seem really into it. So
I have played a lot of it. I played a lot today. But that's like, I've played a lot like recently because I've been playing with my friends back home. And so like they're just getting back into it now with this season because they didn't play last season. They haven't touched it since like my one friend didn't play any of the year one DLC. He played like the base game and that was it. So we've just been going through and doing like a lot of old stuff, like catching up on quests we haven't done. And so, you know, it's fun to have a 3-person fire team and go through and do the stuff. Normally when I play this game, I'm playing completely solo and then matchmaking for strikes or whatever. So it's been fun to do that. Right now they have the season, or no, what is it? So it's the Season of Dawn, but then they've got like their year-end like holiday event, which is the Dawning and the Donging. And this is where like I think we posted in our chat, there's like the Destiny 2 recipe book. So this is where I think the recipes come from, because what you're doing for the season or the Dawning, the festival of Dawning, the Dawning, is you're going around and you're giving all of like the NPCs baked goods, and each NPC has their own individual baked good that you give them. Like Zavala, the Titan guy who gives you strike bounties, he gets Galler Doodles.
Which are what? Is that like a snickerdoodle, but
based on the Gallarhorn from Destiny 1?
Okay.
So yeah, they've got like stupid punny names for like all the baked goods, and you get the ingredients for the baked goods by killing enemies in the world. So you kill like some Cabal and you get Cabal oil, or like get ether crane, I don't know what that even means, from like Fallen and stuff like that. So, and then like the kind of weapon you use will impact other ingredients. So like if you use a sword, you get like a sharp taste as an ingredient, or like
what? That's so dumb.
Yeah, no, it's like, it's real silly.
That's great.
It's just like, so depending on how you kill enemies and what enemies you kill, you get different ingredients. And there's like 48 recipes or something. And then if you make all the recipes, then you can make your oven better. So then it takes less ingredients, so you can make more. And then you get stuff from the people for giving them baked goods multiple times. I don't know.
Sounds bizarre.
It is really odd. Like the last one they did for like the Halloween time was Festival of the Lost, and that's just, here's a repeatable activity to do, where you just like run through this like haunted forest where it's really dark, and you're like on a time limit and you got to kill stuff and try to do it, like go through like 9 different like stages. But this is just go out, do your normal stuff, but then you got an oven in your inventory and you can use the oven to make Gowler doodles to give to Zavala.
It's very odd to me, not in a bad way, but the way that Destiny does their like, there's so much dumb stuff in the seasonal events.
Oh yeah.
And it's so funny because like the game is so serious most of the time. And I don't, it's a weird clash. It's not a bad thing, but it's a weird like juxtaposition.
Yeah. I like, I'm not super into like the whole, the lore, and like, I have no idea what's going on half the time. But like they had Saint 14 came back, who was like in the lore like a little bit. Yeah.
That's cool. And I am into the lore. That's the thing I like most about Destiny.
Well, so they're doing a real crazy thing. I guess minor spoiler for the Season of Dawn, whatever the minor story stuff they're doing. But so the whole setup is Osiris set up, like try to do like some time travel shenanigans to save his friend Saint 14, an old guardian, but he was never able to do it for whatever reason. And so he has this thing called the Sundial, and now like the Cabal are using the Sundial to try and rehash the events of Destiny 2, like the main campaign, to make it go in their favor and like reshape time. Cool. But so he's like, so you're doing like quests for Osiris, and he's like, oh, hey, you found this thing that like will make a shotgun. So go do some quests and then we can build the shotgun. Then you make the shotgun. And he's like, what the hell? This has your ID on it, and it's but it's Saint 14 shotgun. What? And he's like, I don't know. Go use the old sundial that I used to try and find Saint 14. And then you go find Saint 14, and then you give him the shotgun. And then he uses that shotgun to fight his way back through time, not back through, just to survive the entire time, and then show up in the present, and then just like show up at the tower and be like, yo, what up?
That's
Thanks
cool.
for that shotgun.
Yeah, that's very cool. Oops, sorry about that.
So
got an alarm.
Yeah.
Oops.
The phone's like, oh man, that sounds awesome. It's real weird.
Yeah, that's cool.
Does Don Cheadle do any voices?
Sure. I'll be right back.
Don Cheadle. I don't think so. Not Don. Is Don Rickles, Don Cheadle? No, Don Cheadle got actually wanted more money, so they replaced him with Terrence Howard. Oh. No, Terrence Howard. That's a joke for you Iron Man 1 fans. Because Terrence Howard was the guy in Iron Man 1, but then he wanted more money, so in Iron Man 2 they replaced Terrence Howard with Don Cheadle. Yeah. Marvel jokes. Anyway, Destiny 2, it's good. It's good playing with friends. And then like finishing like up for the night and doing one last strike and going, okay, I just completed like 4 quests and bounties at that time. I can feel good about logging off.
Yeah.
We did last week. We did like a hidden quest kind of thing, which you had to like go find all these things hidden about in like lost sectors in like weird areas, like hidden in corners. And then you go into the basement of the farm, and there's a fallen there. And then he's like, oh, come with me. And he takes you to the old tower that got destroyed at the beginning of the game. And then you're going through and you're crawling through grates, and you're having like some minor shootouts. And then you're doing like some kind of raid stuff. Like there's platforming challenges and like puzzles to solve. And you're on a 20-minute time limit. And then at the end you get a cool gun. So that was neat to do.
Do they surface that in any way? Or is that something you had to read about like externally?
My friends found out about it. I don't know how they found out about it. Like I know about some of the secret Destiny stuff, like Whisper of the Worm and things like that. But I had no idea about this quest. I had no idea how they found it. yeah, I don't know. It was like you had to go in like some room that isn't like there's a closed door and you don't get a like prompt to interact with it, I think. And then you go in that room and then you have to pick up a thing. And then there's just like, it doesn't direct you to any of this. You just have to like explore and find it. I don't know how people did it.
Yeah, that's like, I don't particularly care about Destiny. I didn't play Destiny 2, don't really intend to, but as an outside observer, that aspect of Destiny always seems like the best part of it. Like stuff that's hidden and like the weird, like the raids and stuff like that, like all that kind of crap. It's just fascinating.
I think some of my struggle with that stuff, I agree that it's fascinating. The problem is that to like take part, like I don't want to participate in finding it.
Yeah.
But I also don't just want to look up a guide. Mm-hmm. Like I want to find it on my own.
Yeah.
But you're never going to find it on your own unless you're working with other people.
Like, I think there's part of it is like, like for the thing I didn't look up a guide for like how to do the jumping stuff. My friends stayed up to like 5 a.m. like the night before doing it. I don't know if they did it with somebody or they just did it together. I don't know how they would have done it, just the two of them. Cause like they finished with like 9 seconds. With 3 of us, we finished with like 45 seconds.
Yeah.
But yeah, like going through the actual activities and like not knowing what to do, I think is good. But doing like the weird, obtuse, like world stuff, I'm like, I'm fine looking up, okay, how do I get to this cool thing?
Yeah. And it's more of just a me problem where like, I think what it is what I want is a game to deliver that experience organically to me.
Yeah.
But be a little less hard, maybe. I don't know. Like hard to figure it out. I mean,
yeah,
but like it's not a problem with Destiny because they're building it for a community. So different.
Like this, like the Black Armory stuff where they had like 4 forges and like they had to solve puzzles to unlock each forge. And with the last one, the puzzle was so difficult that no one could figure it out. Right. So Bungie just had to be like, all right, we're just going to unlock it for you.
Does it reference Don Quixote at all?
You know, it might. I think there's probably some windmills somewhere. I don't know. There's like obscure French poetry in like the solutions to like some of these puzzles. Like you have to go online, read Wikipedia entries, and like I don't know. They're on some weird shit over there at Bungie, and you know, they're making an interesting game. I think the thing that's brought me around on Destiny is the fact that there's so much to do.
Yeah.
Now really because like in like base Destiny 2, I got bored because it was so easy to like burn through all that content pretty quickly. And like, if you don't want to repeat everything constantly, then it's just no good. But so you can do stuff until you get bored and then move on to the next thing. But if you don't want, so as long as you're into the various things that are there, there's enough to keep you going for a while in like Crucible and Gambit and like strikes and stuff. And I think just general quests. I
think I struggle with it because it feels like there's too much almost. Yeah. And it feels like I like playing that game and I like doing the individual things and I like grinding up the power level of things and getting the engrams and stuff. I find that enjoyable, but it's also like, it's very daunting to open it up and go like, oh, there's 100 levels of this season pass. So I'm going to have to play a lot of this. Oh God.
Dauntless.
So like as if by comparison, Dauntless is like a much more focused game. So I find the hunt pass stuff. I haven't done one for a couple months, but I find the hunt pass stuff in that game a lot more like attainable because it's like, oh, you just do the hunts you need to do normally with some modifiers on basically. Yeah. And you're getting points for the hunt pass. And I'm not saying that it's better, but it's like, it feels a lot more like manageable. Whereas when I log into Destiny, it's like, okay, I've got these 10 exotic weapon quests that I could work on. And then I've also could do my weeklies. And then also I still haven't finished Shadowkeep yet. And there's this seasonal event thing that I could work on too. Yeah. And I heard about this new weird thing and it's great because people who are going to play that game as their main game are going to play
always
30 hours.
There's new stuff.
Always new stuff for them. But as someone who wants to bounce around between games and look at it as something to kind of fill in gaps and like jump on and have fun with, when I open it up and I feel like I can't, it's like I feel like there's so much I can't get anything done with a couple hours of playtime in a week.
But also from outside perspective, that sounds like exactly what people were asking for, because like it sounded like base Destiny 2 and Destiny 1 as well were so just thin,
sparse. It's totally better for that community for it to be the way it is. So it's more selfish feeling, but it is like, I do wish that it was easier to parse that stuff. Like, I wish that there was like you could flip a switch that's like, give me the casual version of the director where it says, here's the stuff you really want to do if you're only going to play an hour a week, and a advanced, like, here's everything version of the director.
I think the weird thing is, like, I am someone who I didn't play Forsaken. I absolutely didn't wring everything out of the game before that. So I'm still like doing quests that I'm doing, like the Rat King quests.
Totally. Same.
From this, cause I didn't have anyone to play with. So I wasn't like going around in a fire team. So I wasn't just knocking that stuff off.
And I did some of those things, but like for a lot of those exotics, it's a good 4 or 5 hour quest to get them. So, I probably did like 5 of them over the early, but there's like 25 exotics in the base game. So
exactly. So, and like these people who are playing Destiny every day, like they must have, most of this stuff done, most of the quests and whatnot. And then they roll out a few things here and there, but I don't know. I don't know if there's still enough content, but I guess like World of Warcraft is kind of the same way.
I think there's never enough content for everyone. I think that there are people who can, for whatever reason, they're able to just sit and play the game for, hours and hours and hours and hours and hours a day. And you're never going to be able to make a thing that they don't crack within the first week, that they don't like level out of within the first week. And I think that like Bungie is smart, because it seems like they're tuning the game for people that are in the middle of that curve, where they are not the super casual. They are not the super ridiculously hardcore. Not that there isn't stuff for them, but they're doing like in some ways, I don't know. Warframe's pretty good about the way that it presents things for you to do, but sometimes Warframe feels like it's tilted even further towards the hardcore player than Destiny is. And I think that they're just both the kind of developers that are really good at seeing where the bulk of their fan base lies within that like hardcore to casual. I don't like using those. I'm not saying it in a derogatory way in either direction.
It makes sense.
As someone I am on the casual side for Destiny. They're both, like, Bungie's very good, and so is Digital Extremes, at tuning where they put the content on that spectrum, I think. It's a good game.
I feel much better about it than I did when, like, earlier this year when Shadowkeep was coming out, and I was like, what are they doing with the switch to free to play? But I think they're actually in a pretty good spot. I haven't tried like the onboarding stuff, and I'm still not sure how I feel about their burying the legacy content, but if people are happy, then that's all that matters, I guess.
They just need a voice pack using Don King.
Oh God, no.
Replace all of the Crucible stuff with Don Rickles, Don Cheadle, Don King.
I'd be fine with Don Cheadle. I like Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle's great.
You missed my great joke about Terrence Howard.
God.
Anyway, there no news to talk about this week, really. Things have been quiet. I think we mentioned holiday season, and all the people are going, no one's going to pay attention to news this week.
Which would make it the perfect time, I feel like, to put some news out.
Really, yeah.
Or if you were like a smaller team, like a mid-sized team, and you're like if you were going to enter, like if Obsidian was going to announce like a new, I mean, they're a AAA team with Microsoft now, but like like if you were going to announce like a sequel to Alpha Protocol, now would be the perfect time to do it. Like that kind of.
You'd have to do. I feel like you'd have to do it earlier in the week because like the closer you get to the end of the week. But yes, sure. you are right. There actually is one thing that I do want to bring up that we talked about the Xbox Series X last week when it was announced at the Game Awards, but there's been a sentiment or like line going around that I want to kind of pick your brain about. There's a lot of people just saying, so it's a PC about the new Xbox.
Sure.
And I don't know what to make of that because
the PS4
doesn't seem like it.
The PS4 and Xbox One are also just PCs. Like,
I think it is and it isn't.
The thing about it is that it's a PC, but it's extremely constrained. So any developer who's developing for it knows exactly what's in every box, so they can optimize it for that specific hardware.
There have been like tons of people like, oh, so it's a PC. But it is. But also,
and that's good.
but not any more than. It seems like it's coming across in a why wouldn't you just get a PC then kind of way.
Well.
Which is, I don't know. It seems very dismissive, and
I've actually been thinking about it a lot too, because now I have a PS4 Pro sitting on my desk, plugged into the same monitor that my PC is plugged into. So for example, I have Dark Souls on both of them now, which is something I kind of have been playing in downtime. And I am enjoying it far more on PS4 than I have on PC. And I have it all fixed and everything. Like I have the remastered edition, which on PC is fine. Same experience more or less, but there is something about the simplicity of being able to hold down one button on a controller and then be loaded into the game, basically. Like that's still something that a PC doesn't replicate. Like even if you have it on an SSD, like my computer, my OS is on an SSD, it boots in like 5 seconds, but I still have to open Steam. And then I still have to look at the store page for some stuff. Like the store page pops up and the recent news pops up. And so I click through that. And then like, usually there's updates for things. So I have to figure out if I'm playing a game that, I don't want it to bleed out all my bandwidth necessarily. So I might have to pause the update while I go to launch something. And then I usually have to log into a launcher, even though I'm launching it through Steam. And like, a perfect example is I'm playing MechWarrior 5, which I'm hoping to wrap up and get a review done for this week, or this coming week. And I'm enjoying the game reasonably. But like every day it's had an update, which is good because I want them to update it, because one of the issues that it has is it's got some technical stuff. So great, but like it's frustrating to get home from work and have 3 hours and then it needs like a 1.2 gigabyte update, and the Epic store is ass at updating things, so it goes really slow. And consoles just don't have that problem so much because so much is unified.
Depends.
Can have that problem.
Like
I haven't had that problem with a console in probably 3 years, but
it took me like maybe 20 minutes to download a 4 gigabyte patch for Destiny 2 and about an hour to install. It seems
it happens overnight while it's in rest mode. I don't know why that still happens to people, because like in both of the consoles that I use, the Xbox One X and this PS4 Pro, it always is installing updates. When
I think for Destiny, the first time when it downloaded, it was because I hadn't played in a long time, so it like wasn't. It
does prioritize downloading things for games that
So but like today, it took like half an hour to do whatever the newest patch was, just to install like the copying process.
Maybe that is most people's experience, but for me, having been playing games on PS4, I've not seen that happen. I haven't had to wait for something to install once. And even if you do, it's one interface that's doing the install. It's not fucking like launching the Epic store and Steam is hitting the hard drive and I didn't notice that. So that's why it's taking so long for this thing on Epic to install. Like I still love my PC, of course. Like I'm looking at getting a new video card. I love to to play PC games, but I think there is a contrast between the two, and I don't think it's fair to just say like, oh, console's just PC. Like there's they're good for different things.
The thing is, like, a PC, I mean, with an operating system, be it Windows or Mac or what, like OS X, whatever, Linux, if you're using Ubuntu or something, they're kind of a jack of all trades. Like you are using your internet browser to, like, I don't know, watch kitty cat videos, etc., and also type emails, and then you're switching to your OBS to stream the latest episode of Gaming Fyx, and you're doing all this shit, and also it's playing games. Like, and yes, it's good at all of those things, but it's the interface, the UI, the UX is all designed to do all that stuff. But a console experience is very curated. It's very like, you push this button to watch your Netflix, you push this button to play your video game, and it just does it.
Let me tell you about Steam OS.
Yeah, there is that, and big picture mode and all that. But
it's just a weird thing where everyone's like, it's just a PC. No, it's not going to be that different from what we're currently doing.
No. It is just a PC, but it's a different OS. It's a game centric OS.
Yeah, and
proprietary.
I mean, and it's going to be probably more locked down in a way than this generation, even like in some ways with like as far as like customization. Because like at least with
the way the hard,
with the hard drives, assuming they're NVMe or whatever, maybe Sony's doing a proprietary like weird cartridge thing. Who knows? But stuff is it seems weird that people are like, oh, it's just a PC.
Yeah, it is weird. It cuts both ways too with gaming, because like I'm able to play. The thing I've settled on to play MechWarriors, I'm using a throttle and my mouse, because I find my joystick is just better suited for flight sims, because it's what's called a hallway joystick. So it's like very good at doing either a roll or a pitch adjustment, but it's not super, like, you can do diagonals, but it doesn't, like, it's got two springs in it, basically, one for forward and back and one for left and right. So it'll register a diagonal input, but it's not as, it doesn't feel smooth, which doesn't work as well for MechWarrior, because you want more like a mouse-like interface. So anyway, I'm using a throttle and mouse, and I had to edit config files to get all of that stuff to work together correctly. And while it should just be baked into the game, the fact of the matter is that it's not. And like, their solution is, hey, go map your HOTAS throttle in a config file. If it were a game on console and I plugged in my throttle and it just didn't register, too bad. I'm playing with a controller, which is not the way I want to play that game. And so like, certain games just fare better on PC because of the way that you can access elements of the game's file structure, whether it's to do a config, like League of Legends. I basically have Dota Plus for League of Legends, because I have a program called Blitz that like gives you build orders and stuff for characters. And since I'm a scrub at that game, it's really useful for me. And that game, that program is very simple to use. You wouldn't be able to do it on a console, because you can't install like a third-party software that like does screen recognition, or I don't know if it does screen recognition or if it's looking at something in a hard drive. It could, it could be their API. I don't know, but at any rate, that's just not a thing that happens for console games. So they're just different platforms, and
I want my custom Beat Saber songs on PS4.
Yep, you cannot install Cheat Engine on a PS4.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
There are still like Game Genie-esque, Game Shark things like for sale in Japanese game stores.
Okay.
Like old systems.
No, for PS4. Weird. And like, so like, I think I've only seen for PS4, but
memory modifiers for PS4.
I guess I have no idea.
That sounds dangerous.
Is it like a USB stick or something?
It comes in like a jewel case kind of thing. Like not like, it comes in like a Blu-ray case.
Put the disc in and it mods your PS4, and it says you can't connect to PSN anymore, otherwise you're in trouble.
They sell them in like the big electronic stores, so I have no idea. I've not investigated. Maybe I will make that a feature on the site.
Yeah, when you upgrade to a PS5, turn your PS4 into a burner and just like install a mod chip in there.
There we go. Well, now I have to buy a PS5 so we can do this at launch. Oh well. Darn, I have to buy a PS5.
Oh no.
Poor me. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that was all. It's just like, I don't know why people who should know better are saying that stuff, but I don't know.
Weird. People like to jump on weird bandwagons.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's all the weird sizing stuff about Series X too, where like some size charts are like, oh, this is pretty reasonable. And then I saw one, like, we made a styrofoam model and they made it and it was like 8 inches square and then like 13 inches long. And I was like, what? That is not, they basically like made this huge brick. It's like, it's not gonna be that big.
8 inches is a little.
It was like
it's gonna be like
PS4 Pros stacked on top of each other.
I mean, that would fit in my entertainment system, whereas I do not know if an Xbox Series X would fit. Like,
I don't know.
I think it will.
I think
because they said they made the controller smaller, right? Just like
yes,
3% smaller or something.
Yes.
So I think it would fit, but it would be as tight as it could possibly be.
I guess my point is, I think that speculating about all that shit is a waste of time because, like,
what does it matter?
It's all they. I mean, if it doesn't fit in my entertainment system, then that matters. I mean, I'm probably not going to buy one because
you're not going to buy one anyway.
But that's there are other people who conceivably have.
I guess
a similar entertainment.
My feeling is anyone who wants an Xbox One or Xbox Series X is gonna buy it, and like, sure, they're gonna go
want a PC next to their TV. Boom, boom, boom.
They're gonna go. Oh, it doesn't fit in my entertainment center, and then they're gonna figure something out. That's not gonna stop anyone from buying.
Yeah, they're gonna return it and buy a PS5.
Just like when that thing
got them.
When they announced the price and it's like $550 and people were like, there's no way that they can compete at that price. The thing's going to sell the fuck out on.
I mean, they always will.
And it will continue to be hard to get into the new year. And like, I don't know. I think there's a lot of like speculation on like price, size, launch lineup. Is there going to be open? Like, are they going to continue to have cross-platform play and stuff? And while I do agree that stuff matters, could
you imagine if they stop having cross-platform play?
They won't. But once all that stuff is on the table, it definitely is a comparative decision to make between the two consoles. But when there's nothing to compare it to, and there's no like real information about those things, it's just chill out. Just enjoy the holidays. Like, we're gonna know by March what Sony's doing.
Yeah.
By E3, we're gonna know the price of those things. Also, just don't worry about it. Don't stress. We got enough stress about it.
Like, people are like, oh, they announced this price, it's gonna sell like poop, and like it's gonna be the end for Microsoft. No, like, the thing is, they don't make their money on the hardware.
Hell no.
Like, they're making all their money on software.
Well, but also they course corrected real hard after they changed leadership there. And
they're like, to continue on that one, like, they're along with their course correction and making all their money from software, you know, Xbox is on PC now.
Yeah.
So it's pretty safe to assume that anything that comes to the Xbox Series X is also going to come to PC.
And it's and I should be clear too, when I'm talking about like chill out, I mean like getting into arguments over it. I'm not saying speculating isn't fun. Speculating is certainly a fun thing to do.
Yeah, totally.
But more the like, and I don't even mean like, we've had conversations about it, like debated about it a little bit in our chat. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about like pretty heated arguments that I have seen on places on the internet in comment sections and stuff, which I know are always trash, but
toxicity on the internet. What? This
is the weirdest thing to be toxic about, in my opinion, arguing about how big the Xbox is. It's like,
girl, it's 8 inches around and 13 inches long. Let me show you this.
That was also the thing they led with, was like, here's what it looks like. And you go, what the fuck?
You go, what the fuck? That's a cool looking console.
That's what it does. It doesn't look bad. It's not a cheese grater, that's for sure.
Except for people who have trypophobia.
Yeah, true. Yeah. That's tech is not being kind to that.
No,
specific phobia recently.
How did they not do like a 2001 a Space Odyssey, like the monolith thing with the monkeys?
I think that's a little they kind of did, but yeah.
But they should have done like that, but no, they should have had the monkeys like around the Xbox.
That would be a bit much.
It would have been great. Also, I finally watched that clip and I was like, this just looks like a Death Stranding trailer or something.
Totally.
Like the wave going out looks like the thing that you send out from the Odradek. And like it looked like Timefall coming down and like stuff getting old really fast and the rocky like landscapes. I was like, is it Death Stranding 2?
Yeah.
Then there was a Halo man and you're like, what?
Yeah.
But I think kind of going back to the price thing, I think that they know exactly what different pricing is going to do at this point. Like, not that they can't, I don't think they're infallible, but I think that they're very aware that if Sony puts out a $400 console and they put out a $500 console, that it is going to be easier for Sony to sell that console to people. Like, obviously, $100 price difference makes it easier to sell the thing.
Yeah. I don't know that, like, if they're as similar as like rumors and leaks suggest, then I feel like Microsoft could easily go, we're going 400 just to prevent that from happening.
I think they could. I think whether or not they do, though, will be a conscious decision, I guess.
Yeah, and they've got
they're willing to take less of a hit than, because the way I look at it is like, maybe they take less of a hit and say, well, if you want to play the games natively in your living room, then you pay the 500. Or, hey, we're making money on software anyway. Pick up Game Pass for your PC that you already have that's moderately powerful, or you can stream games with Game Pass to your phone, or you can stream games.
They also ostensibly have whatever we've been lovingly called the Series S.
I am less convinced that that's going to come out next year.
Oh, next year? I don't think so.
No, I kind of thought they'd launch side by side, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
And I think without the cheaper model to compare it to at launch, an expensive box is still an expensive box.
Yeah, but I think eventually, even if it's a year later, they will have a model that's like way more accessible and probably more internet based. So
I still think the play is that they don't take too much of a hit on the Series X. I think that, frankly, you can go buy a perfectly good Android phone that will run run any app you want to run and will work as a phone for calling and messaging for like $400, and people still buy $1,000 iPhones. So I think that Microsoft is trying to push to move the console space in that direction. And I think that they're fine with being the like premium brand, and the customers that they lose, they'll make up in selling them xCloud stuff. And so I just think and then I think they will put out a more affordable console that's probably lower priced than the PS5 to kind of compensate for that. That is going to be mainly a streaming box that'll run like Xbox One games or whatever.
You mean an Xbox One?
Actually, what I mean is I think they'll put out a modified version of an Xbox One X for a really affordable price point, because they seem like they want to. The biggest thing they have, and this comes, I've noticed this talking to friends too, like when I went to go play board games this week, the group, about 5 other people, the group was all like, oh, what did you think of the Game Awards? And unanimously, they were all like, that Xbox announcement fucking sucked. And I was like, whoa, what? I think that console looks great. And they're like, it doesn't make any sense. No one's going to understand what the Series X is. Like, that's stupid. They should have called it something else. And so I think that they might want to move away from the like Xbox One brand being a thing pretty quick.
Yeah.
And kind of get those things off the shelves and have their Xbox Series X and whatever the other series is.
That would be the smart thing to do.
I agree.
Especially if you have the Xbox One X and the Xbox Series X.
Yeah, then that's what they were saying, and I was like, I hadn't really thought about it that way because in my mind, there's such a clear delineation.
I mean, it was Nintendo did the same thing with the Wii and the Wii U,
and it was a problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think my argument is that the Series X is selling to enthusiasts who already know the difference. Like they were saying, like, mom goes in to buy that for their kid, and I was like, don't worry, the $500 price tag is just going to stop the mom from buying that for their kid.
But also, really I think it might work against their favor if the One X drops significantly in price, and the mom is like, oh, that one's cheaper, it looks the same, I'm gonna get that, and then the kid's like, well, now I can't play Xbox Series X games, fuck.
That's why I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to try to aggressively move Xbox Ones, because I mean, next holiday, it doesn't matter anyway, right? Moms aren't buying it next holiday. It's like super enthusiasts,
or any mom who will know which one they're getting.
So I think 2020, and I hate to use the term mom, by the way, too. That's kind of parent. Yeah, that's a
guardian.
Yeah, parent or guardian, mom or dad,
Don Rickles,
brother or uncle or grandparent. But the less savvy shopper, by the time they're selling to them, there won't be an Xbox One on the shelf anymore. There'll be the Series S that'll be all over. It'll say like, hey, you can play these things if you have a good internet connection, or you can play all of this great library of existing titles from Xbox's past natively. And I think Xbox is probably Microsoft's probably hoping that by that point, game streaming is going to be enough of a like household thing that it'll make sense to people, to like kind of average consumers, if it says it's a primarily game streaming for the new generation of games.
I think everyone assumes that when like a console launches or whatever, that everyone who is going to buy them is just like your average person, and it's not. It's all enthusiast people who are lining up or who are dropping $500 on a thing that's unproven.
Yeah, totally. And so, that's why they don't overproduce. That's why they seem to have supply issues, is because they're producing for a smaller audience to start to build buzz, and then they ramp up production so that they can produce them cheaper, and then the margin gets better. That's definitely.
Or you're Nintendo and you go, holy shit, we did not properly.
I mean, I think Nintendo hopefully has learned by now that they're kind of an outlier in that. Really, we're talking about.
But I mean, after the Wii U, they were like, okay.
Yeah, right. They had a weird.
Yeah. So then they had to they're like, okay, we got to like figure this out. And but there is some of that artificial scarcity a little bit. Yeah. But also at some point you're leaving money on the table.
Totally. And I bet you too, to kind of put a cap on that, like the whole like Series S versus Series X. The other thing that I suspect, if you look at like the PS4 right now and the Xbox One, I'm trying to think of a good example, but like let's look at AI. So AI, really, by all accounts, a great game, and it is available on like all of the consoles, I think. Do you know if that's true, Alex?
I don't know if it's on Xbox.
Let's say hypothetically, it doesn't really matter for this thought experiment.
Sure.
Not on Xbox.
That game could probably, now it's probably not optimized for it, but it looks like that game could probably run on a pretty wide range of hardware. Like, I don't know if it could run on a PS3, but my guess would be that if Microsoft put out a super heavy box and a sort of Xbox One X equivalent box, there's going to be a lot of games like that next generation that could run on like less powerful hardware. So I think that like they would be very poised to take advantage of and to go back to the just a PC thing, you're probably going to be able to run Halo Infinite on PC hardware that is not as powerful as what's in a Series X.
Yeah.
And it'll scale.
I think its scaling is like everything is predicated on that, though, because if suddenly you're having games that do not run on the lower system, like you're locking people out from playing games because they have the Series S, like then that's not a good solution. Like that's kind of the argument, or that's the worry people were having when the PS4 Pro launched, was like, oh, are there going to be PS4 Pro only games?
I almost wonder if because I think the problem is that there kind of are. I mean, there aren't, but Control's a PS4 Pro only game. Yeah. Let's be honest. At least when it launched.
Yeah, ask Allison.
Let's be honest. And that fucking sucks, but it's also like a reality. So I almost wonder if Microsoft would be smart to say to developers, look, we have this lower tier box. It's going to stream anything. You can play any game on it if you are willing to use game streaming to do it. You are free to target both SKUs or the more powerful one. And it's very clear on the box, there is a Series X only or whatever thing.
I don't think that will hold if they want to like maintain just the Xbox name going forward.
And I think if that's the case and they can't do that, I don't actually think there's a Series S, because I don't think they can say, look at this fucking crazy looking Hellblade trailer, and I don't think that scales down to lower hardware than like a Series X kind of.
It'll have to, because like you said, for like PC stuff.
Yeah, and I don't know if that scaling means, the X is 4K and the S is 1080p or 1440p, then like
as long as they can do it like that. But it seems like there's CPU and like memory stuff tied to a lot of what is supposed to make these games exciting and new. I guess what I'm saying is I go back to my issue from earlier in the year, where if it really does just scale down to an Xbox One X, why the fuck are we doing new consoles? Like,
I mean, that's kind of been the thing for like the past couple. Well, this generation in particular, I think, was where we really started seeing diminishing returns with regards to visuals and that kind of stuff. Because like by the end of the PS3, stuff was looking about as good as like most PS4 games. Like look at The Last of Us on PS3. Like that doesn't look that much worse than a PS4 game.
I guess what I'm saying is I think for the next generation of consoles to be interesting, and maybe the answer is it's an Xbox One X with an NVMe drive in it, and so that's the differentiator. But
it seems like they're doubling down on all the things that we were talking about earlier with like convenience of the consoles, or at least that's what it kind of sounds like. Talk about like, oh, you can suspend like 5 games at once,
But the other thing though that seems to be the talk, they talked a little bit about it on the Bombcast this week, and Jeff Gerstmann kind of did a little bit of hand tipping, and it sounded like a big part of what makes this new generation excited, and this is the thing that's now exciting me about a new generation, is there's CPU stuff that these machines can do with with the kind of cycles that they're running, and with the way it uses virtual memory and stuff that is not possible on current generation hardware in like any respect, unless you have like super high end PC. And that it is really exciting for developers to be able to do like actually new things in the space that can't be done currently, not just a visual fidelity upgrade.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's the actual interesting thing.
We could have a long talk about that, but like the TLDR version, so we don't go on for another 4 hours, is like when it comes to development right now, if you were to look at it, getting a CPU or something, Intel wins for the moment, just in terms of power and all that kind of stuff, like without getting into TDPs, etc. But I imagine that more cores, more threads, like more concurrency in about 2 years is going to be the thing that gets you the most performance, because now, like multi-threading is used a little bit, but it's not optimized. But now that the new consoles are going to be multi-threaded, like you're going to see PC games going that way too.
And I guess that's just my point, is just, I wonder if you can put out a cheaper box that can still achieve all that stuff.
I mean, if it's based on the same architecture and designed with that in mind, then like, of course, everything's scaled down. It's not going to be, if it says this console is capable of 1080p 60, no, like it can stream 4K, it can output 4K, but it's not going to it's going to up-res. It's not going to do native 4K, but you'll get, similar stuff or whatever. Then I think we won't run into an instance of like Shadow of Mordor, where that came out on current consoles, and then it came out later on the last gen with the the Nemesis system ripped out because they just couldn't do it on
sounds like not the way to play that game.
Yeah. That system was that game. So
yeah, it'll be interesting for sure to see where that goes. And I think a lot of this has to do with why there won't be a second SKU until 2021.
Yeah, it won't launch with 2 SKUs. That would be confusing.
And maybe the answer is that it won't come out in 2021 either. Is that 2020 is the Series X like launch, and then 2021 is the year where they sell the more average consumer on the Series X, and Sony's just selling a PS5, so they'll just sell a PS5. And then 2021 or 2022 is when like the Series S comes out, because now it's cheap enough to put those CPUs and those hard drives in a cheaper box, and they just take the GPU hit, and then you can do it. Although I don't know at a certain point when you put out if you can put out a 1080p box anymore without people going, ooh, 1080p. Because I don't know. I feel like if you said to me like last year, oh, we put out a console that'll run all these games at 60 FPS at 720, I would have been like,
but like 720 had like a very small window, and like 1080p with like most people on computers are probably still on 1080p.
I am. I don't have a 4K monitor.
I don't know. Like most
right
TVs
now,
the TVs you buy are like, you can get like a cheap 4K TV.
Yeah.
But
I'm saying in 2 years though, I don't know what that landscape is going to look like. We'll see. I don't know. It's hard to speculate.
I mean, if you say, hey, this will play games at 1080p 60, you can stream that. Like it'll upscale to 4K, but like, you know, you can stream 4K games. You can watch Netflix 4K, but you know, games 1080p 60 do that. Then I think you're like, that'll be fine. And like, you know, for the people who want the cheaper console, if they know it's directed at like, hey, this is for people who don't want like the crazy expensive box. And if they're delineating that, like it'd be the same thing as the Xbox One X and the Xbox One S. It's just they're, you know, a whole different SKUs. But we'll see. It's still, you know, 11 months till we're seeing the fruits of these conversations. We'll, you know, get at me, Phil Spencer. I've got ideas.
Me too. Would love to do lunch, Phil.
Pat does live closer.
I do, yeah. And I live, you know, I could get my car and drive to Phil's house right now.
That's a threat.
That's going to be the episode title, so that he can track you down.
I don't know Phil's address, and I don't want it.
No, but Phil wants yours.
He's got it, unfortunately for me.
That's going to do it for episode 101 of Gaming Fyx. Man, can you believe it?
Episode 5, we made it.
Thanks for joining me, Alex. Where can people find you?
I don't know. I'm in Mambo number 5 somewhere or other.
Okay. Pat, where can people find you?
You can find me at PJC Plays, dying in a field from scavs or in a safe house from terrorists, I guess.
Don't pick your scavs. You can find me.
No, never mind.
Okay.
You can play as a scav too. That's the thing.
Okay. You can find me on Twitter at Coolslaw, COOLSL4W. You can find Gaming Fyx on Twitter at Fyx Podcasts, where you can enter our holiday game giveaway. The details on how to enter are on there. Like I said, running until December. December 23rd. Wow.
11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yes, Pacific Time. So enter that or email us at gaming@fyx.space and tell us what you think the most underappreciated game of the 2010s is, or a picture of Jeff Keighley's butt.
Yep.
and we'll get you entered that way too. Or just send us like your thoughts, comments. What do you think is going to happen with the next generation?
It has to be a real Jeff Keighley's butt picture. I don't want like some weird source filmmaker like
being sourced.
Right. So
Jeff Keighley's butt.gif.
You can send that to Alex's personal email. I don't want to receive
Alex@fix.space.
I don't want to receive emails of like the Jeff Keighley model from Death Stranding doing stuff.
Ooh.
I don't know. I wonder if they've pulled that out yet.
You could get him doing a lot of stuff.
It's not on PC yet.
No, but if you listen to this in a year, also don't do that.
It's almost 2020.
Unless G-Man is also involved.
You mean Jeff Man?
No, that's not what I mean. No, Jeff Man. I don't want to see any source filmmaker Jeff stuff.
All right.
That makes one of us.
Yeah. I know what Alex wants to see. He wants to see Don Rickles source filmmaker stuff.
Taking a dump just like Sam from Death Stranding. And then it just plays like Toy Story sounds when he sits down.
How fast do you think they're going to remove the screen, like the door from the bathroom?
Immediately.
PC comes out.
Immediately.
You're going to see all of
Oh, man. They're going to disconnect the camera when he's peeing.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Get ready.
All right. Well,
it's coming.
You've got like 6 months or something.
You can finally answer whether he's jerking it or pooping.
13 inches long.
He's cranking it. Not jerking it. He's cranking it.
Right. I'm sorry. When you use the bathroom sitting.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Gaming Fyx. Thank you, everybody. And remember, the night is darkest before the Don Rickles.
Good night.
Good night.